everybody, I've got a great video for you today because whenever I see comments surrounding Land Rover and Range Rover, it's typically about one thing, which was very true a bunch of years ago, reliability. But so many people don't consider the amount of time and engineering that goes into the four-wheel drive and all-wheel drive systems in new Land Rover and Range Rover products. And in this video, I'm going to demonstrate why this Range Rover has one of the best all-wheel drive, or do you want to call it four-wheel drive systems in the entire world. We're going to compare it against a vehicle I recently tested, the Lexus GX, by putting it through the TFL Slip Test, and then I want to bring it out into the real world and showcase why this system is so good.
Hey folks, today's video is brought to you by SalvageReseller.com. This website allows you to bid live on online salvage auto auctions without a dealer's license. You can register for free or use the 20% off coupon in the description below. Go find your salvage car gem now.
This is the TFL Slip Test. Now, this is a test that we run just about every crossover and SUV through to see how the all-wheel drive system and the four-wheel drive system, depending on the vehicle, works in a controlled environment to simulate snow and slush and ice. Now, in this test, we get various wheels stuck in these rollers on purpose to see how the all-wheel drive system and the traction control programming work to get us unstuck. Now, this is where the Land Rover and Range Rover four-wheel drive system shines. It's amazing the amount of work that this company goes through to ensure their vehicles are capable beyond what you'd ever expect, and I'm hoping we're going to demonstrate that today. Now, this is the front wheel slip test. Both front wheels are stuck in the rollers. I have the Range Rover set up in auto mode, just normal driving around everyday mode. Onto the accelerator, we're nice and settled, and you can see didn't slip a wheel an inch, just drove us right off. Now, this is a full-time all-wheel drive, really all-wheel drive system, because this one doesn't have the low range transfer case. I'm going to call it an all-wheel drive, and yeah, I mean, not a single ounce of slip, drove right off. Let's go to the diagonal slip test. So obviously, front wheel slip test is you know, a pretty standard test, and both this vehicle and the Lexus GX drove right out of that. But notice how much less slippage it took in the Range Rover compared to the Lexus system. It's pretty interesting, right? And that was without touching a single button. Now, next up, we are moving on to the diagonal slip test. So in this test, the front left and the right rear are going to be stuck in the rollers. And this is a very common situation off-road, but also very common in the snow and in the slush. Imagine you're driving up on like a snowy curb. You get the vehicle a little bit off kilter. Various wheels are going to lose traction with the ground. That's exactly what we're dealing with in this test. So I'm going to start off with the auto mode engaged. Not going to push any buttons, and there are a lot of buttons in this vehicle, and we're going to see how it performs. So auto mode engaged, we're nice and settled, into drive, onto the accelerator. I mean, it's just like it wasn't there. You know, this is a test where an old school open diff vehicle would really struggle with. There'd be a lot of spinning, traction control would start to grab, and we see this in tons of crossovers that I test on this exact maneuver. But the Range Rover, even in the auto mode, look at this. Incredible. The way that the brakes clamp down on this car are smoother, more responsive, and more direct than any other off-roader, soft-roader crossover I've ever experienced. All right, on to the three-wheel slip test. Next up is the three-wheel slip test. So both front wheels are stuck, the left rear is stuck, only the right rear has traction. And one of the cool things about this Range Rover, which I think is really, really cool, well, let me show you. I'll grab the camera here for just a sec. So we have these various screens with these various camera angles. That's not that uncommon, but what I think is super cool, let me get out of here, go back into the 4x4i screen. You can actually see what the suspension position is doing and what the center differential is doing. Now, right now that center diff is unlocked, but it will actually lock up automatically as the four-wheel drive system sees fit to distribute, you know, wheel speed front back, which is pretty neat. So only the right rear is on the ground here, into drive. just a little bit of accelerator, just a tiny bit of slipping, and we got unstuck even in the auto mode. Let's try one of the off-road settings. All right, so even in the auto mode, we walked off this 3-wheel slip test like it was nothing. And this is a test where many crossovers just get hopelessly stuck, but time to engage the terrain response and engage in off-road mode. So we've got, in this vehicle, comfort, eco, dynamic, more of the on-road settings, but we also have grass, gravel, snow, mud, ruts, sand, and a wade mode. So I'm gonna engage the mud and ruts setting here. And let's see what happens. So into drive, off of the brake, onto the accelerator. Just walked off it like wasn't even there. In the mud and ruts mode, it's gonna lock up that center diff more. Incredible. It's like it's not even fun. You just get unstuck in this Range Rover. On to the next one. All right, so the final test. Both rear wheels stuck, left front stuck, only the right front has traction. This is a test where, you know, a lot of vehicles, once again, can't even begin to think about driving off. And we've seen that a lot of times, but in this Range Rover, let's see what happens. So, I'm going to leave it in the mud and ruts setting, kind of the most capable setting. And let's talk about how this vehicle compares to that Lexus GX we just tested. Lexus GX underneath, Toyota Land Cruiser Prado, one of the most capable Toyota products ever made. It's just incredibly good at what it does. But in terms of a controlled environment with an analysis of the four-wheel drive systems, the Range Rover is just doing better. The way that the system responds with so little drama is just incredible. I mean, the Lexus is impressive for what it does, but when you really start pushing the system, it sounds like sneakers in the dryer. You can feel the computers working in this Range Rover effortless. But anyways, still in the mud and ruts programming, center diff is locked up. I'm going to show you something cool here. I'm actually going to film the dashboard, and you can actually see the computers in action here. Onto the accelerator. Okay, well, we got so much torque transfer that it slid us off of the rollers. That's how much that front right was grabbing. We're gonna try it one more time just to kind of even out the test a little bit, but you can see it's looking pretty good. All right, I want to try a new system in this Range Rover, which is not often talked about. Beyond just the standard terrain mode, there's also something called low traction launch, and that's what I'm going to engage now. So go into the screen here. I'll show you what we're doing here. I'll film it on my phone so you can see what I'm looking at here. Boy, does that screen look dusty, but we're going to go into the settings. We're going to go into low traction launch, and there's a few things that we need here. We're going to set the terrain response into the auto setting, and we're going to start low traction launch. So gradually apply accelerator until the vehicle moves away from a resting position. Okay, here we go. So low traction launch engaged, only the right front on the ground. Okay, well, we did it. So you could feel the torque transfer a little bit to that right front wheel. The system works as advertised. I actually personally thought the first time was better, just in mud and ruts, forcing all that torque so much to the right that it lurched us off the rollers. But regardless, in a controlled environment, you just cannot beat the Land Rover Range Rover system. They invented terrain response over 20 years ago, and they've been perfecting it in the Range Rover products, but also the LR3 and the LR4 and the Discovery 5 and the Sport and the full size, and everything gets the terrain response. And now in 2023, apart from a four-wheel drive vehicle with locking diffs like a Bronco or a Wrangler, it's pretty much impossible to beat this system. All right, let's go try it in the real world. So I got the sticker to this Range Rover Sport here. As configured $100,085. This has the 3-liter inline 6-cylinder engine, 395 horsepower. One of my favorite engines, actually. This little turbo inline 6 is so smooth, quiet, great power band. Same engine that you can get in like the Defender. And then this has the Terrain Response 2 with the low traction launch and the adaptive air suspension. Now here's the thing. In a controlled environment, we proved just how good this drivetrain is. But my big complaint with Land Rover and Range Rover is that they go through all this engineering to make it one of the best, most capable drivetrains anywhere, and then they give it 22 and 23-inch wheels and all this plastic and not enough underbody protection, and all that work is like, oh, why go through a huge amount of work and then not give me the other essentials that I need from an off-road vehicle? And I think the smallest wheel you can get on a Range Rover Sport now is like a 20 or a 22. Give me an option for an 18 and a skid plate. That is what we want. That would be so cool. With all the luxury in here and yet some true off-road hardware, now that would be a cool setup. So we're about to go through trenches here. This is our off-road test course where we get various wheels kind of lifted up on purpose, and it's nice and muddy today. So we're gonna see how this vehicle performs. I'm starting in auto mode. I'm not even gonna raise up the air suspension. Oh, it's gonna be really muddy today. We are running on snow tires, by the way. So this is auto setting. And you can see even in the auto setting, even in this thick, goopy mud, the Land Rover is still moving. It is still crawling up this course. And this is some of the thickest mud I've seen out here in a while. And we're on 22-inch wheels. And look at that. Got to maintain a little bit of speed, which I don't typically like to do, but in this mud there's not a lot of other options. But you just hear a gentle tick from the 4-wheel drive system as it sends and distributes power left and right. I just did that in this. Any other vehicle I would have been traction control screaming. Oh, unreal. That is some thick stuff too, and I'm not even in any of the off-road modes. That was just in the auto 4-wheel drive. That's what's amazing about these vehicles, is they make difficult situations like that seem easy. I'm not being sponsored by Range Rover. Look, we have plenty of history with Land Rover products, as I'm sure many people in the comment section will point out, but just as an unbiased opinion, it's amazing what this 4-wheel drive system will do. All right, let me go into mud and ruts, because that's exactly what we're dealing with, muddy ruts here. It's gonna lift up that air suspension, give us more clearance. I can feel the air suspension rising just a little bit, and we're gonna try it one more time with the mud and ruts program engaged. This is much harder conditions than when I was out here in the Lexus GX, but even still, you know, lifting up tires a little bit, it's forcing me all over here. I'm gonna maintain just a couple miles an hour, allowing me to rev up that engine too. Really good torque delivery out of that inline 6. I can see on my diagram, it is sending power to all 4 wheels. It's trying to even out the power distribution. It's trying to even out the load. Unreal performance. And this is on snow tires, which is how Range Rover sent us this car. So this car has the goods. It just needs smaller wheels and a little bit more clearance in the front and back, and you'd have such a beast. And this is a product that doesn't have a low range. I can see the outline here where it should be, but we don't actually have the low range in this particular one. And if we did, it would be even better. Starting in 4 high, center diff unlocked. And we're gonna see how it performs, taking it really slow on purpose, trying to get the vehicle off kilter. Man, the Lexus traction control programming, you can tell that they took the lessons learned from the TRD Pro 4Runners and Tacomas and apply it to these vehicles, because they perform so similarly in the way that the traction control system's engaged. They're aggressive, but they're also very deliberate. There's not a lot of spinning that goes on. There's not a lot of kind of faff or fuss. Even with the center diff unlocked in high range, we're just walking through this. It's really cool what this will do. Now we do have downhill assist, or DAC, right, which we could use going down steep hills, but we don't have like the off-road settings in this vehicle, and it still performs so well. Really is an amazing performing vehicle for what it is. And when you consider, you know, the Lexus or the BMW that you might cross shop with this, those vehicles aren't designed in this manner. Now, of course, the downside of this is old school V8, 6-speed automatic, low range, lots of weight, and you know, the fuel economy, 16 combined. So not a huge amount of impressive numbers there, but If you don't care about that thing, you know, this thing will last you. I had no difficulties putting several 100,000 miles on this vehicle, I think, and it's gonna last a long as well. So let's try the low range. We'll lock up the center diff. We'll go into the most aggressive mode. Center diff locked, low range engaged, and watch this. Still a lot of nice functionality in this vehicle. Good screen. They have changed the interior a little bit. They have updated it. Looks good. Very beautiful leather quality. I'm not sure I like this gray on this black. The gray seats don't feel very premium, but everything else, so good. I do like this panoramic camera. Works really, really well. You can actually see through the hood. Give you a shot of that. Look at this. It's pretty cool, isn't it? Then you can see what's on the edges of the car. That's really, really nice. But once again, just taking it really slow. Less drama with the center diff locked. As we've proven time and time again, that's the way to go if you're in really tricky terrain. And it's just walking right up it. You know, Toyota and Lexus have done wonders with their crawl control system, and it's an impressive system, but honestly, this is doing pretty much the same thing, just with my foot. Amazing. Really, really, really good vehicle. Man, I really hope that they keep building this even in this current form for a couple of years, because the GX, one of the #1 go-to overlanders, for good reason, because it's just that good. So as you can see, I mean, the potential capability on this vehicle is pretty much unmatched with any new, especially luxury SUV. The challenge is that Land Rover and Range Rover put so much plastic on their vehicles and so much attention toward huge wheels, 22s, 23s, that they aren't able to capitalize on just what this drivetrain has to offer. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. A big thank you to Case behind the camera. We'll see you in the next video.